What's up, Taiwan? I'm Erika Liu with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan is refusing a request by the South African government to relocate its de facto embassy away from the South African administrative capital. Reese Ayers has more on this rare souring of relations.
Taiwan's foreign ministry is standing its ground in the face of demands from South Africa to relocate its representative office from administrative capital Pretoria to Johannesburg. Taiwan is saying it has no plans to move that office, which operates as a de facto embassy, even threatening reciprocal action if South Africa follows through with its threats. Taiwan is asking South Africa not to break a contract it made in 1997, which stated the liaison office would continue to operate in Pretoria even after South Africa switched official diplomatic recognition from the Republic of China, Taiwan, to China. And they're asking to at least bring Taiwan to the negotiating table. But South Africa is saying there's no room for negotiation and that the office must move out by the end of October or else it will be closed. And where's all this coming from? And why does moving cities even matter? Well, relocating Taiwan's representative office away from South Africa's capital is being seen as a power move by China. Taiwan's foreign ministry is saying that this is part of China's ongoing campaign to isolate Taiwan from the international community, not only by pressuring Taiwan's few remaining diplomatic allies, but also pressuring countries like South Africa, who already cut official diplomatic ties, to further distance themselves from Taiwan. Howard Zhang and Reese Ayers in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan will send former Vice Premier Lin Hsin-i to Peru for this year's APEC summit. 77-year-old Lin is the chairperson of the government's investment fund, Taiwania Capital, and a senior advisor to President Lai Ching-te. Under pressure from China, Taiwan participates as Chinese Taipei at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. Peru rejected former Vice President and Premier Chen Jianren as a potential envoy, asking for someone with less of what they called a political background. 6 years ago, Taiwan saw one of its biggest transportation disasters when a train derailed, leaving 18 people dead. As Chris Gorin reports, some victims' families are dissatisfied with the government's response.
It's been 6 years since a train traveling at more than 130 kilometers per hour derailed in Yilan County in eastern Taiwan, killing 18 people and injuring more than 200. It was one of the worst rail disasters in the country's history. On the anniversary of the crash, some family members of those killed and injured gathered to mark the date and raise concerns about the rail authority previously known as the TRA.
We think Taiwan government lied to everyone, and we need the TRA to say the truth to Taiwan people.
Responsibility for the accident fell on the driver. He received a prison sentence of more than 4 years for his decision to turn off a speed control system known as automatic train protection. Earlier this month, he was also found liable to pay half the money owed by the state-owned Taiwan Railway to one of the injured passengers. But the group of victims' families says that the speed and timing of the accident in the official government report doesn't match with the video of the crash, something for which they want an explanation. The crash is just one of several train accidents in Taiwan's east coast in recent years, some of them deadly. In 2021, a truck that fell onto the tracks derailed a train that killed at least 49 people. And earlier this year, landslides caused a partial train derailment in which at least 9 people were injured. The government says it has made efforts to improve train safety in light of recent disasters, such as strengthening monitoring and automated safety systems. And this year, the rail authority changed from a government agency to a state-owned company, which is aimed at improving management and services.
我们台铁必须把这个教训当作我们安全改革的一个动力，包括交通部我们也会这个全力对于台铁安全改革。
Yet, despite these efforts, natural disasters such as earthquakes and typhoons have continued to cause track closures on the East Coast. The country now moves forward, hoping that these reforms will be enough to avert the next disaster. Joseph Wu and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Russian Navy ships have arrived in Myanmar for joint drills with the country's embattled ruling military junta. Myanmar says the exercise with Russia will continue through Thursday. This is the second time the two countries have held drills in the past year, signaling deepening ties. Russia supports the junta's election plans and provides its weapons for Myanmar's ongoing civil war, while the junta endorses Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Indonesia's new president, Prabowo Subianto, has started his term with a diplomatic blitz. The former general wants a bigger role for his country on the world stage, while trying to keep it out of the U.S.-China rivalry. John Van Trieste reports.
From Singapore and South Korea, from China, Australia, and the UK, diplomats have descended on Jakarta to congratulate and get straight to business with Indonesia's new president on day one of his term. Since his landslide election in February, there have been questions about what an Indonesia under ex-General Prabowo Subianto will look like. Though he's pitched himself towards young people as a grandfatherly figure, he's never escaped accusations of human rights abuses while in the military. These include ordering the abduction of democracy activists in the late 1990s, the final years under former President Suharto, a strongman widely regarded as a dictator. The accusations were bad enough to get him discharged from service and denied U.S. and Australian visas. Analysts say at least part of the population is still unsure about him, despite his popularity and public support for democracy.
Karena orang kan banyak ragu sama Prabowo, karena dia kan dibesarkan oleh Pak Harto, dikenal sebagai orang yang mungkin punya masalah secara hak asasi manusia, tidak terlalu mendukung demokrasi dan sebagainya. Itu yang mungkin akan jadi pertanyaan. Selama ini Pak Prabowo sih bantah, tidak langsung. Misalnya ketika ditanya oleh, kalau nggak salah satu wartawan asing, Anda dianggap anti demokrasi gitu. Terus Prabowo bilang, saya kan terpilih secara demokratis. Indonesia itu sudah demokrasi sejak kapan gitu. Jadi tapi kita nggak tahu ke depan. Itu saya kira isu-isunya.
But the international community is also looking to see what Prabowo will bring to the country. The diplomatic blitz that's come right after his inauguration Sunday is in line with his vision of an Indonesia with a bigger global presence, the world's fourth most populous nation come into its own. But in his inaugural address, he also repeated a pledge to keep Indonesia non-aligned.
Indonesia memilih jalan bebas aktif, non-blok, non-aligned. Kita tidak mau ikut fakta-fakta militer manapun. Kita memilih jalan bersahabat dengan semua negara.
It's what he calls a good neighbor policy, seeking investment from both the Western camp on one hand and China and Russia on the other. But some analysts see challenges ahead as close economic ties with China and growing security ties with the US and Australia create tension. On the streets of Jakarta, ordinary Indonesians, especially young people, are also thinking about what lies ahead for their country. Their feelings range from hope to uncertainty.
Kalau harapannya buat Presiden kita Prabowo dan Gibran Rakabuming Raka, semoga aja visi misi yang udah dibuat atau dirancang itu terlaksana dan mengutamakan kesejahteraan masyarakat. Dan karena aku juga mahasiswa jurnalistik, semoga aja Prabowo lebih terbuka lagi lah buat media-media.
Kalau saya pribadi sih senang atau tidak, saya tidak bisa didefinisikan ya Pak. Saya lebih ke apakah bisa mereka mewujudkan harapan dan janji yang mereka kasih ya. Karena ketakutan ke depan kan bagaimana lapangan kerja, bagaimana ekonomi Indonesia, itu yang perlu mereka selesaikan kan. Paling harapan saya sih mereka harus bisa mewujudkan itu ya. Karena kalau tidak kita harus menuntut lagi mulai dari tahun pertama ataupun tahun kedua. Karena kalau presiden atau wakil presiden cuma sekedar figur untuk apa gitu.
After 8 months of waiting, the Prabowo era is here. And from day one, the global community and everyday Indonesians are watching carefully to see what it may bring. Klein Wong and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
South Korea's foreign minister has called for greater security cooperation with the UK, citing rising geopolitical challenges.
We take our global strategic partnership one step further by enhancing our strategic alignment and coordination. In a geopolitical landscape where the security of Europe and the Indo-Pacific are increasingly intertwined by the day, as illustrated by the recent developments on the Korean Peninsula and Ukraine, including deployment of North Korean troops to Russia.
Cho Tae-yul made the comments at a meeting with the British Foreign Minister David Lammy in Seoul. South Korea's relations with the North have deteriorated in recent months. Seoul now accuses Pyongyang of sending soldiers to fight for Russia against Ukraine. Lammy is on tour of Asia. He has visited China, aiming to mend strained relations between London and Beijing. He also attended the inauguration of Indonesia's President Prabowo Subianto on Sunday. Trans people in Taiwan who want to change their gender on official identification documents must undergo mandatory surgery to remove all reproductive organs. A handful of transgender people have had exceptions made for them, but only after lengthy legal battles. As part of our special coverage marking Pride 2024, Irene Lin reports on difficulties facing so many of those seeking gender recognition in Taiwan.
28-year-old Devin is facing one of the toughest decisions in his life. He's one among an estimated 100,000 transgender people in Taiwan, and one of many who still possess IDs that show their sex assigned at birth.
我觉得现在，即使我现在可以很自然，或是说哦，我现在很自在什么的，但是其实某种程度心里还是会有一点不安的感觉，因为当我真的要出示身份证件的时候，这件事情我觉得它就是一个很大的破绽。
Taiwan requires transgender men to surgically remove their female reproductive organs to change their ID gender. In the past 4 years of hormonal therapy, Devin had never considered the mandatory surgery, until years of microaggressions in his personal and work life started to take a toll.
我其实希望被当男生，然后我不希望一直去提我是跨性别，或是我是因为有一些自以为贴心的人就会说，就是例如说我们要去。 搬东西，帮忙搬东西的时候，他就会说：“哦，没关系啊，我来搬就好了。我知道你可能没有那么，就毕竟你还是女生的身体嘛。”
He says if he keeps avoiding surgery and getting his ID changed, these things will haunt him for as long as he can take it. But the costs of surgery are a bitter pill to swallow.
比起我需要付出的成本来说，我没有那么想要去做这件事情，对吧？我要花钱，然后我工作需要中断，因为我要手术，我要休养。
Devin is not alone in his struggle. Gender-reaffirming surgeries are excluded from Taiwan's national health insurance coverage. The mandatory removal surgery alone may be well over $6,000, and it's only the first step towards being freed from a body they don't totally identify with.
必须要把子宫、卵巢、输卵管都拿掉，这是基本。那有些人他也不喜欢阴道，所以阴道也同时会一起做。其实。 他们来开这个刀，这些钱都是一点一滴的存下来，除非说你家里经济很好，爸妈都可以负担，不然要靠自己是非常的辛苦了。
After the removal, some will proceed onto penis construction, which could raise the total cost to over $30,000. It's optional for those who just want to get a new ID, including Devin himself. But for some, the high-stakes procedure is still last resort to live the life they want.
第一个就是希望达成他可以站着上厕所，站着小便这件事。那其实这也是一种男性的一种在就是社会上的行为的象征。我们也希望可以达到，就是可以让他做到有性交的能力。
My gender is my choice.
Since 2019, there have been legal efforts to challenge the surgery requirement. Devin says he would love that for himself and those who also cannot afford the procedures. But the community has some concerns.
需要手术的人，他们可能会担心，如果免术换证出来之后，会不会就没有医生要动手术？或者是家人可能也会反对。啊，你不用手术，你就可以去换证了，你现在干嘛要动这个手术？那个门槛会变高。
Transgender people have diverse ways of expressing their gender. Some change their physical appearance, such as by growing facial hair. Others through body modification, and still others through legal pursuits. None are easy. But ensuring the right to decide one's gender and bodily autonomy is ultimately their shared goal. John Su and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, check out these images of a street graffiti art event featuring hundreds of artists on the streets of Hualien City. I'm Erika Liu. Take care and see you next time.